let's talk a bit about that because, I mean, for the past 60, 70, 80 years, I mean, the US/Silicon Valley has led pretty much every major technology adoption. Not only led it, but dominated it. And you might have actually brought this up maybe the last time you were here. And I've heard you quoted on another show and saying that now 85% of crypto trades happen outside the US. Obviously, you've got regulation coming in, obviously Gensler at the SEC doing his thing, Congress doing other things, Coinbase talking about leaving. And then you just went on this trip around the world. You went to Abu Dhabi, you went to Dubai, you went down to Australia, and you came back with some really interesting observations, Dan. And I'd love it if you could share it with us. One of the ones that really struck me was that you said down in Australia, they understand two things that maybe in America people don't, and it's crypto and currency. And I thought that was interesting because in America, you don't think about currency much because you're surrounded by dollars and nothing else matters. I think it was Terence McKenna that said, I don't know who discovered water, but it certainly wasn't a fish. And so you go to these other places and they get it. They're like, oh, I see the need for that. I see the need for this, especially Dubai, which is the city of the future. And they're building everything potentially to be on the blockchain. I think everything they do is digital in Dubai. Just maybe we'd love to see your reflections on what you've seen globally. And I know you're getting investors from a lot of these areas as well.
Our largest investor base is in Australia, and there are a bunch of reasons for that. But I mean, you can walk down the street in Sydney and ask somebody where the Aussie dollar exchange rate is, and they pretty much know. And the same thing for New Zealanders. But in Australia, it's an entrepreneurial culture. If you think about it, a giant island. They're always looking out for new opportunities. There's a lot of wealth there. And also, they really get gold. There's a lot of gold in Australia.
Right.
And, if you understand how currency works, and you also understand why gold is an important asset, it's really just a little step to understanding Bitcoin. It's just a little bit of jump. But if you get technology, I mean, a lot of the guys there, they're like, well, okay, the internet, that was for information. And okay, the Bitcoin network and the digital asset ecosystem, that's for value and money. Okay, I got it. I mean, I literally have had conversations like that. Okay, I got it. And you're investing in companies that are building and growing up in that world. I'm like, yeah. And they're more established. Yeah. And so the conversation, there's no, there aren't so many, hoops to jump through. So many, in the US, you get all this talk. Well, what if it goes to zero? And what if it gets regulated away? And, it's a threat to the dollar. I mean, it couldn't be further, away as a threat to the dollar. And why do I say that? I mean, the opportunity really is, these stable coins out there, they're dollar based. Like, the dollar could become the digital asset, the key, the core. You have Bitcoin, that's an alternative, but the dollar stable coins, 8 trillion settled, you could have hundreds and hundreds of trillions settled in dollar stable coins. The US should be pushing forward to be, to make sure that the dollar is the stable coin of choice, right? But, the markets developed slowly. Well, I mean, slowly. I mean, it was 0 3 years ago, and now it's much bigger. But if the U.S. ever laid out a friendly framework, I mean, it would just explode. And I think some of the foreigners just don't understand. Like, so Dan, what's really going on there? And I'm like, I have no idea. I mean, I don't know. I don't understand what all the hesitation is about. I've been saying this for 3 years. I mean, the first interview I did on this whole topic in the summer of 19, there's a big part of that was on Real Vision with Raul, was I just don't understand why we don't, I don't want to say weaponize this, but why don't we take advantage of this and, make sure that the dollar is in the middle of the digital value world? It's that, what? It's kind of happening on its own a little bit, but there is a possibility that it doesn't, that some other countries, a group of countries, take advantage. And, if they do, then so be it. The U.S., I've always believed in free markets. I've always believed in competition. And if you're falling behind right now, it doesn't mean it's going to be behind 5 years from now. We have an election coming up. I think having, 80-year-olds running the country, I've said this a bunch of times, it's just not really optimal for us. But I think the foreigners, they're wondering what they get that the U.S. doesn't, because as you said before, the U.S. is led in technological financial innovation, and now they're, firmly at the back. Emerging market countries understand this concept even better. I mean, Bitcoin has a finite amount. Many of these currencies, emerging currencies, have, I guess, I don't want to call them supply schedules, but are being devalued dramatically by the fiscal and monetary authorities. I mean, you look at Argentina and, at some of the other emergers where, you have tremendous devalues, Turkey. Those populations are already bought in. They already understand it, get it. So I just think it's a matter of time. Really, for the U.S. And so it's not really, I don't answer that question, oh, yes, this is a threat, right? The Financial Times still has a very backwards looking perspective on this, as does, of course, the New York Times, the Journal, all these things. I mean, I don't really read the newspapers anymore, and people in our space, sort of don't. I don't, my kids haven't maybe ever read a newspaper.
That crazy.
So,
you don't read the Wall Street Journal anymore. You don't read the Wall Street Journal or the Financial Times.
No, I did I read the FT every single morning. It was required reading for all my analysts every day, probably for about 20 years and 25 years. And then it's just they're talking about old macro stuff.
Yeah.
Some central bank tweaking of array, the traditional macro cycle, traditional companies. It's all in the past.
So Jim Rickards has just recorded a video that's not available to anyone in the public, and he's going to be talking about how this upcoming recession is going to be fast, it's going to be bloody, it's going to be nasty. But at the same time, he's going to show you how you can position yourself to profit from all of this chaos. Now, we've made this video only available to our viewers. Go to londonreal.tv/Jim. Watch that immediately. I can't say enough good things about Jim Rickards. He understands the global economic system better than any guest I've ever had on London Real. His predictions are almost uncannily true, and you can learn how to profit from his vision, from his expertise, and his understanding of economics. So go to londonreal.tv/Jim or click the link below. It's an excellent, excellent look on what's going to happen in the future and how you can position yourself to profit from that. Jim is one of the best in the business, one of my favorite guests on London Real, and he's very, very good at predicting the future and showing us all to profit from it. So click the link, and I hope you enjoy. The greedy bankers are about to do it again. In 2008, they crashed our financial system and nearly bankrupted the entire global economy. Then they received trillions of dollars in government bailouts. And after, they demanded fat bonuses paid for by you, the taxpayer.
It turns out the banks haven't just been screwing the American taxpayers, they're also screwing over their investors. Turns out the banking industry is the worst place you could put your money, despite enormous taxpayer bailouts.
Now the bankers are back to take away your financial freedom. They lie and tell you that cryptocurrency isn't safe. They try to make it illegal for you to choose how to invest your hard-earned money. They lie and say cryptocurrency is used by money launderers and criminals. But look at the record. It's the banks themselves that launder hundreds of billions of dollars every year to the biggest criminal operations in the world.
Leaked documents have revealed how some UK banks have helped criminals, money launderers and Russians under sanctions.
American authorities discovered that the Sinaloa cartel moved $881 million through HSBC accounts. as bank officials turned a blind eye to the illegality.
The bankers lie and say cryptocurrency is not a real investment. Meanwhile, the smartest CEOs in the world are buying billions and billions of it. The truth is that banks lie about cryptocurrency because it makes them scared. The banks take $9 trillion per year of your hard-earned money, and they are worried that they will finally be exposed. They're scared because crypto means they can no longer control your money, which means they can no longer control you. They are scared because you might actually understand your money and intelligently decide what to do with it. Now is the time for us to come together, fight back, and take control. It's time to educate ourselves, our families, and our communities. Because financial education means financial freedom. We know that cryptocurrencies will help us build the new decentralized financial system of the future. A banking system that is of the people, by the people, and for the people. A banking system where access to finance is a fundamental human right. A banking system that is free and fair and welcomes all humans on this earth. The DeFi revolution is happening. We, the people, can no longer be fooled. We choose to take control of our finances. We choose to take control of our freedom. We choose to take control of our future. Join us, and let's take back our financial freedom forever.